All right, Joel Gausten here from joelgausten.com for my latest video interview. I'm really happy to be joined by not only an old friend, but at different times over the years, a bandmate and tour mate. It gives me great pleasure to welcome currently from the state of North Carolina, Mr. Sal Canzonieri. Sal, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm here by way of New Jersey, right?
Oh, no kidding. That's
Right.
excellent. I
Well,
didn't know you were around.
no. I moved to North Carolina by way of New Jersey.
Right, gotcha, gotcha. Well,
We're
as
done
you
with New Jersey. I mean, my sold we sold the house there and everything. So, but it's cool here. We got
How long
Electric
has it been
Frankenstein.
since you've been there? Because I know Dan moved to North Carolina as well.
Yeah, he moved. Well, everybody in the band is from the north, and we all Electric Frankenstein. And I'm the last one to come here. I moved here 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and then uh, we've been doing good with Electric Frankenstein down here. It's, we met up with all the people from the north that probably are down here, and then, you know, we got Wheeze Von Claw on drums from Buffalo, and Johnny Flood from Pennsylvania. He's on my he's got like three bands on the Fistful Rock comp. So I think two of them were on the old one. He was in Drag Strip Syndicate
Oh,
and Full Time Kings from Pennsylvania. Yeah.
excellent, excellent. Well, I definitely want to touch on that. And as you know, I've had various Electric Frankenstein people on the channel. I was in that band myself on a couple of occasions, so it's always great when you guys join me on here. And I want to say too, a few weeks back, yourself and your brother Dan, who plays in Electric Frankenstein with you, you were both guests on Drew Stone's podcast, the New York Hardcore Chronicles.
Right.
And we took a pretty deep dive into a lot of things. I'm going to link that show in the description for this conversation. So if people
Okay.
want to check out a wider reaching history of both you and Dan and what you've done, they can definitely do that. But I did have Dan on this channel recently, and similar to how I did it with him, what I'm going to do with you is kind of talk more about your pre-Electric Frankenstein history, because I've always been very interested in that. When you and I first met, you were already well into Electric Frankenstein. But prior to that, and for quite a few years, beginning in the mid 80s, you were a member of a band called The Thing in New York
Right.
City, which in and of itself has a very interesting history. So that's going to be kind of the primary focus of this conversation. But um, so let's start off really at the start of the Thing's history, which would have been 85, if I have that correct, probably around
Yeah.
1985.
Probably when we started playing live. I think I was writing songs a year before. Um, a little bit before that, I was in college and we were doing I was friends with Jim Foster. I worked in a record store, so that's how I know everybody. And that I imported from Europe and everywhere around California, the rest of all the hardcore and punk stuff. Um, and anything new, gothic, you name it. And so I was in the Doom Patrol with my middle brother Joe and Set Accardo that we were friends with, and um, another guy was on drums, and so that was like Dead Kennedys ish kind of punk rock, a little bit of Flipper in there too. I don't know why, and then the sound. So we did that for fun. I didn't think we played any shows, but we recorded something, and then Dead Beat Records put out a single with I think three or four songs from that session. There was two more songs, but they couldn't be used. They were bad. So then I was like, everything is boring and like, what the heck's everybody's now starting to sound the same. We were going to all the New York hardcore shows and we were going to all the punk rock shows. Anytime somebody came from England, we went to those shows in New York and New Jersey. So um A lot of the customers from the store went to shows with us, which now everybody knows them. Diane from WFMU
Mhm.
and all those people. So we all met through the store. And I wanted to do something else. I opened my own store after that in Irvington. It was called Rebel Rouser. And that's where AOD met Jim Foster, and then they got together. And then all these bands from all over the country used to come to my store. Um, Corey from Necros, the Big Boys, um, Agnostic Front. I mean, bands from all over, Pandora's. They all used to come to the store. So anybody who was touring in the area, Fang,
Mhm.
everybody. So Glenn and the Misfits used to come to the store. Glenn came a lot. He used to sell all his records um, and posters and artwork and old records. But then we were talking, and he goes, "Well, I'm not doing the Misfits anymore. I'm going to do something different, and I'm listening to Specimen and Alien Sex Fiend, and there's something new happening. I'd rather go forward. Plus, music is a lot heavier now," he said, and after Earth AD. So I was like, well, okay. I'm thinking of doing something different, like psychedelic kind of punk, or I called it yeah, we called it psychedelic punk in the beginning, and then we were kind of trying to merge hardcore with progressive rock, and not the way other people have done that, but not the way I was doing it. And we didn't sound like anybody else, so I wanted to call it The Thing because in the movie The Thing grabbed pieces from all different encounters it had, and it can change in shape. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so I did that, and then Glenn did Samhain, and the history of Samhain, and the thing I'm telling you now. So started out with people that we found in the paper, right? Um, what was the Aquarian, and
Mhm.
even Electric Frankenstein got members from the Aquarian, so that's how we got Steve. But the bass player was Bill Paquette, who's now a well-known sculptor for all the Marvel and DC. Um, and I relearn. I was like sitting with my guitar and I go, how can I relearn and how can I do everything different that's not the same as anybody else? Because that's what was going on at the time. You had Sonic Youth that I was friends with. You had the Swans and whatever California bands that were like that, Christian Death, right? So I wanted to do something different, not sounding like them, but so I mixed classical music and jazz and progressive rock and punk rock and hardcore, mixed it all together, made something new. The songs were pretty hypnotic, and I wanted a um, stage show that was involving. So we had all kinds of things happening while we were playing. And it influenced a lot of other people, including White Zombie. So once we started playing live, then that whole lower east side scene started. So it was us and White Zombie and Live Skull and Rat at Radar and of Cabbages and Kings and shoot, there's so many bands that were Menace the Ment, Black Snakes. We all were playing the CBGB's, the Continental, the Chase, the Space at Chase,
All
and
right.
Brownie. Yeah, and
Right.
Brownies. Those are the four main places. Max's Kansas City had closed already by then, which was sad. And I think the punk thing kind of dissolved. Hardcore became a place where you can get knifed by people coming there just to start trouble. And I split off from the hardcore scene then. We were going to see all the no wave bands. That was really exciting. I mean, the Contortion. I can't believe James Chance just died, but the Contortions and anything like that, DNA, that was really impressive and really different. They played at CBGBs mostly and maybe the Continental. Um, but those were great. And then the Swans came and they didn't sound like anybody else. In England, you had Birthday Party, you had Bauhaus. All that was a big influence on everybody too, that post-punk stuff, Susie and the Banshees. So when I started doing the thing, it really took off in New York. We were real professional sounding, and we didn't sound like anybody else, and people liked it a lot. And the people that like Sonic Youth liked our band. We didn't sound like them, but we were good. And then Jesse Opsbaum was our singer that we found in the paper, and it just really kept growing and growing and growing. And I got to the point where we had a sold out show at CBGB's with Von Elmo. And I did like curated shows where I started doing that later too with Fistful of Rock. And I would pick all the bands that go together that were doing this kind of post-punk style, New York post-punk style. And the live shows, we had strobe lights, smoke bombs, we had vampire women, we had naked women painted blue, we had all kinds of things going on. I remember I put a bucket of pig's blood in the ceiling, and then I pulled it, and it all rained down on everybody, and live worms came down on everybody, and people loved it. And we did one show, and CBG was really into it. They shut off the air and filled the place up with smoke. So the sound man, the one that everybody knew, I forgot his name, the burly guy with the black hair, and so
not Tommy Victor. Tommy Victor?
No, but he was a sound man for us. He called my guitar style Gamera guitar. He said it sounded like monster screeching. So what they did, they shut it off, and then they had people walking in, and everybody was kind of scared. And we were opening for Happy Mondays, and it was packed already by the time when we were on first. It was packed. And then what they did was they flipped the air on, and then all the smoke sucked through the whole place, and everybody screamed. I heard all these people screaming, and it flew past everybody and then went out the back. And then there was smoke bombs coming up, and then we came out one at a time from the smoke bombs, and then we started playing, and everybody was totally into it, and almost everybody left after we were done. Happy Mondays had hardly anybody. People were like going, I can't see another band after that. That's just so different, so wild and powerful. The music was real hypnotic when we played. We were always swaying back and forth, and the music just made us do it. And the audience really keyed into it, and it was a lot of fun. And that's how I got to be friends with so many. Well, now I don't see anybody, but back in the old days, the people you saw all the time at every show, always recognize your face, and then people start talking. New York City is not a very friendly place, so music is the only reason people talk to each other, I think.
Well, you've said a lot there, and I want to kind of break down a few things. Number one, how did the band find the women who participated in the live show, either nude or otherwise?
They were all friends of the people that the New York people that lived in New York that they had. They volunteered. So we had one of the women painted blue was chubby. You won't believe the amount of bullshit we got for that. I'm like, what? You're not going to masturbate about her. It's just there for, to be like, oh, wow, this is weird. That's the only reason. What do you care if she's chubby or not? I mean, like, what the hell? Now nobody would say it. And in fact, now people go the opposite way. Oh, cool, she's chubby, right? So everybody's a fetish person now. So thanks to the internet, right? And kids are so into fetishes now, it's weird. So they learn a lot from the internet, not necessarily everything that's good for their age. But hey, man, we were going to New York since we were 16 and went to after hours clubs, and that's where we seen our first drag people and trans people way back, right, in the 70s and 80s. So everybody weird was there, and even if you didn't want them near you. So we met them through people that were in the band, and people said, "Oh, I'd like to do that." The first show we had all these women, Chinese women dressed as vampires,
Hmm.
and they had back costumes, and they had all this cool clothes. I don't know where they got it from. I think they made it themselves, and they were like dancing behind us while we were playing. And we got to remember there's those strobe lights. And then I had a light show where I had 3 screens around us. One over on one side, it was going into the human body all the way down to the molecular cellular stage, and the other side going into outer space and going further out. And then they would blend, they would look the same. You're like, oh, is that inner body or outer body? It's so weird at that point, the physics of it. And in the middle, we had all different tantric sex things, images going on. And one show, I had paintings all around the wall, and I did all this. I had a circus people doing um, taking off straight jacket and blowing fire and doing all the things. And then Hilly goes to me, "We're not Lollapalooza. Get this shit out of here." He goes, "You want to play here? You pay. You pack the place in. I appreciate that, but and I appreciate that you choose my club to do it, but we can't. I don't want. I don't want art."
Right.
I'm like, whatever, dude. Music is not art. But people liked it a lot. They're like, wow, this is so different. This is really cool. So
You
what did we
also,
do? We put out singles. I think that helped kick things off even more.
well, hold on a second. I want to pause you for a moment.
Hmm.
You mentioned Bill Paquette, a member
Right.
of the thing. I want to mention the people who may be watching who are interested in kind of the greater history of New Jersey. Bill Paquette, I met probably about 20 years ago. No, 30 years ago. Good God. Because Bill Paquette, if people remember, fans of the Misfits Fiends, may remember in the mid 90s, there was a Jerry only like sculpture you could buy through the mail. It was like a mail order thing. That was created by Bill Paquette of the thing. Yeah, that's how I met him. He was sculpting stuff for the Misfits back then. So kind of an interesting small world thing. That
We when we he okay, he taught himself how to play bass, and it worked for a year, and then he couldn't keep up with the guitar and the changes we're making in the music, but it's not his fault. And then so I said to him, listen, we're gonna have to get a new bass player. You should be a sculptor because you're an extremely good sculptor. And if that's where your real talent is, go with that. And then he started making stuff, and he went to the toy shows at Killer Theater conventions, and he started showing people the little statues he made. Then he started getting hired by people. Then he very makes a lot of money, and I think he moved to Virginia. He makes sculptures for DC Comics and Marvel Comics, all those busts and all
Mhm.
those big statues that they make. So, I mean, I think I did him a favor. He seems to be still upset about it. I don't know. Doesn't really talk to us. We say hi to him. He just says, "Hmm." So, what are you going to do? When you can't
Well,
stay,
you
you
know,
don't even have the thing forever.
when you did have the thing, there are certainly things that are interesting in that there weren't many bands in the scene doing this. Number one, the thing did a Peel session for John Peel. uh,
Right.
which, so I'm very curious how that came about. And the engineer for that session is an interesting person. So I want to kind of get the history of how you ended up doing a
Well,
Peel session for John.
he was the producer. First, we started, well, we couldn't find anybody put singles out, and we wanted to do that. And so we would go to Bleecker Bob's all the time. And Tony worked over there, and he was friends with Jim Gibson, and they had Noiseville Records.
Right.
So I gave him a tape. I said, give this to Jim. Maybe he'll want to put it out. He puts out different kind of stuff. He had Bench. He had a Head, HED. The bands that we would fit in, and we did play with them live at Coney Island Park. And he liked it. And we were like, thank God. And we did an EP with Tommy Victor produced it. And then we did a single, Weirdo Riding, for the label. And at that point, John Peel was playing those singles. And lots of people called and said, "What is that? That's really mesmerizing. What the heck is that?" And he invited us to do a Peel session. Now, he said, well, he met with us, which he said he never does, and he wanted to meet us. The first night there, we went for a tour, and we built the Peel session, the tour around the Peel session. First night there, I asked somebody if I can have the chair from the table. He goes, "Oh, you have an American accent. Why are you here?" I go, "I'm here to record and tour." He goes, "Oh, you're in the thing." I'm like, "How did you know?" He goes, John Peel plays you all the time. He said you were coming here this week." I'm like, "Oh, wow, that was good." And then we did the Peel session. We recorded in the room where Dark Side of the Moon recorded at Maida Vale Studio. It sounded gigantic. My equipment came from the garbage. They found a Fender Super Twin Reverb, which was you can't find them now. I wish I had one. It sounded really powerful, and a foot pedal that I've never seen before in my life that really boosted the sound amazingly. Not just made it louder, but made it richer. So we did a cover at the end of the Peel session of "It's So Easy" from Hawkwind when Lemmy was in the band. And that all ties together. I'll tie it all together. So the producer was Dale Griffin from Mata Hoople, which I thought was amazing because I love Mata Hoople. And we were down to the last 5 minutes because then we had to do mixing. And he said to me, "Okay, son, you have one take to do your solo. Can you do it?" I go, "I have to." And I just did it, and it came out right, and it was good. I think Bing Crosby recorded "White Christmas" in that room that the booth was in, and because there was a sign on the wall. So it was Bing Crosby and Pink Floyd in there. And so because I ordered records from Dutch East India all the time, then they was putting out the Peel sessions, and then they put out ours. So now the record cover, we did a hawk with the thing symbol on its eye. The Hawkwind was around, and they really liked it, and that we did a cover of "It's So Easy" because it was only a single. And it gives them a boost, like a lot of bands. We covered the Tubes, and they said, "Man, everything took off again once you covered our song." So they did a picture of a teepee, and the thing monster was shooting out of the teepee and erupting out. So all the ectoplasm kind of stuff like in the movie. And I'm like, "Oh, that's a nod to us." We did a nod to them. So that Space Days book mentioned our connection with Hawkwind and Monster Magnet. So we were around before Monster Magnet. We were around before all those bands. And I remember some books said that we are the inventors of stoner rock. And I'm like, "We are?" So there's an encyclopedia of gothic metal and stoner rock that came out a long time ago, 20 years ago. And we're in there. There's a chapter about us and Electric Frankenstein. And I can see what they mean because we were calling it psychedelic punk, but then we were calling it some kind of thing that sounded like the word hardcore, but it wasn't. Man,
Acid core? Acid core?
Yeah, acid core. Yeah, I call it because I was saying it's acid rock. The guitar is acid rock, like
Right.
Hendrix, stuff like that. But I was really into all the progressive rock bands from the 70s because the guitar parts were amazing in there, and people don't appreciate how heavy that stuff is, and it led to heavy metal, right? All those bands later, were influenced to heavy metal people. I mean, look at Lemmy. I mean, he was in Hawkwind. So, I mean, Hawkwind was a central band for that style. So that's what music we were aiming for. Then we got invited to be signed to Contempo Records from Italy in Florence.
Right.
So we went there to sign. That's funny because my name is Salvatore Canzonieri. In Italian, that means savior, Salvatore, and Canzonieri means a songbook or a musician or an album, a collection of songs. You put it together, it means keeper of the songs. So when I was signing my name, he goes, "Put down your real name." He goes, "That can't be your real name." I go, "Nobody in America would know it's a fake name. It's not a fake name. It's my real name." He goes, "Wow." I got showed him my driver's license. He goes, "Wow, that's amazing that your name is, is Keeper of the Songs." So and we did our album. That was 1990 when it
And
came out.
that
So we,
was the thing from another world. That was the
yeah,
album.
that was
Yeah.
the album was called From Another World, and um, they fucked up the back cover. They changed it without asking me, which was stupid. I always had uh, a triangle with the eye on its side, so it would look like a vagina with an eyeball in it. And
Mhm.
they turned it over and put
Uh,
Gary Newman's eye in there. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Why?" Goes, "Oh, I thought you made a mistake." I go, "Why would I make a mistake?"
well, they should have checked with you too,
Oh, of
to
course.
make
They
sure.
probably didn't like it because it looked like a vagina, but it was a real eye. But when you turn it sideways, it had that, this part was the clit. And so it looked, and I thought it was cool. I was mixing together all that imagery, sexual imagery without being porno. The human body going into the cellular level, going into outer space, like I said before. I liked how everything fit together. So, which that's the same idea for Electric Frankenstein, creating taking a whole bunch of things and making something new out of it, which is what Frankenstein was. So the sum of its part, the sum is greater than its parts, whatever that saying is.
Right, right.
Sum of the parts is greater than the individual parts, and that's what I always wanted to do. I just did an online article that somebody asked me to write down my 10 most influential bands. I'll say, well, that's 100 influential, but I'll do the 10 most influential bands that influence Electric Frankenstein. Every one of them was a band that merges styles. From
Mhm.
Bolt Thrower to Discharge to Lee Harvey Oswald Band to Big Chief to you know, and that's the stuff that influenced me the most. It was mixing things together. Why? I don't know. I mean, I learned the martial arts was my school, and my teacher would teach us to merge the different styles so you had a backbone where they overlapped. So, which came in handy. I've gotten, when you had a kung fu school, people come and challenge you, and I had people put on full body gear and challenge me. I go, well, go ahead, hit me, or try to. And then, soon as the guy tried to do a big taekwondo kick, I just shifted and threw him up in the air. People go, "What style did you use?" I go, "All of them." It's Tai Chi and Shaolin and everything all mixed together because there's a common moves. So that idea, oh, my teacher's right. Find the commonality between things. And that's what I did with the thing because I was learning Kung Fu since that time. And that's what I did with Electro Frankenstein. So the Doom Patrol was just kids doing whatever we could. I was learning how to play the guitar for the first time.
Well, you mentioned a
And,
Doom Patrol single. We should mention that's a relatively recent release of older material. That didn't
right.
come out for many years until like what, maybe two
No,
years ago?
yeah. Yeah. I found when I moved, I found so much stuff. I go, oh, that's what box it's in, because everything was in my parents' basement. And then I found the cassette and I went, I want to put this out. Why do I have to keep it? It was with my brother Joe and my other friend. And so we we put it out. Deadbeat is a really cool label. They like to put out anything punk or rock.
Yeah.
So I bring a lot of bands to them. Sometimes they say no, which is disappointing. And then sometimes, most of the time, they say yes. Oh, that band's great. So I had some band from down here that I thought were really cool. They were like Black Oak, Arkansas, and they did covers of Generation X. I'm like, what? Long hair, cowboy hat, and they sounded really good. I mean, people really young in their 18, 19, 20 playing that old style, like old Aerosmith, what
Hmm.
they call pageant. So I said, I'm going to help these guys. So I said, what are you doing with a little shitty CD? Nobody's buying them. You need vinyl. So I told Deadbeat about it. So they're putting that at their
Oh,
next record out. So it's
what's that
cool.
band called again?
Pageant, Pageant.
Pageant. Cool.
They have videos on YouTube.
Excellent. Going back
Yeah,
to the thing, is it true that Ornette Coleman turned up at a Thing show at CBGB's?
yeah, because I was telling people I was getting interviewed in a lot of New York magazines, and there's a picture of me, Ned, Ned from
Action Swingers, Ned?
Winger, and Rudolph Gray, and the caption was the three best guitar players in New York, and I was like, well, that's a compliment. And then I was saying I'm using some ideas from a harmonics approach that Ornette Coleman did, and then so the poster for that show was a giant Betty Page with her legs spread. I mean, she had underwear on and tied to a chair. And so that was everywhere, big posters like this. And I would get architect paper and get photocopies made on architect paper, the blueprint paper.
Mhm.
And so they walked them up. Well, there was one of my friends was there, and her parents were famous. They made commercials, right? And they had a lot of the jazz people in it. She goes, Ornette Coleman's here. He's here to come and see you. And they're walking him up, and they gave him a table right in front. And thank God nobody's slam dancing for this kind of music. And he watched the whole show, and he's watching my fingers and watching what I was doing. He just nodded at me at the end. I mean, he looked ancient back then. Isn't he still alive? Got to be like in his 90s.
I'm not sure actually if he is or not.
Yeah, I haven't heard him dying. Maybe he'll never die. So, but I loved him, and his music was really different again, and I hope he liked it. That was Tommy Victor was the sound man for that night. He goes, "Well, that's impressive." He goes, "You know, because they came to see you play." Yeah,
Yeah,
that doesn't happen often. I was like, "Yeah."
absolutely.
It was
Um,
the funny thing that happened during that time period. Um, a lot of famous people came to see the show. So like River Phoenix and everybody, Judd Nelson, and all those people were at one of my shows. And the Pixies,
mhm.
and right after the Pixies put out a record, and the B side, it talked about the thing, and then it said the band played on, and I was like, maybe they got impressed by the show. But I was at Maxwell's, and Sonic Youth was playing. So they did the first song, and it sounded really fucked up. And Thurston points at me and goes, "Tell me what's wrong and how to fix it. Everybody shut up. He's the only guy I trust." And I was like, okay, turn Kim way down. Put what's his name, the other guy up, and
Lee,
you're okay, Lee, and put him up a little, and then it sounded perfect. It sounded like the records, and everybody clapped and goes, yeah, and and they did the whole show, and they were real happy. I'm trying to find a bootleg. Got to be a bootleg of that show, just to hear him say, "You're the only guy I trust."
well, Sonic Youth is putting out a lot of live recordings now officially.
Yeah,
I'll have to send you some links because I know they've been doing some stuff like that. It's possible it's already out there.
yeah.
Um,
I've been looking on SoulSeek. I found some of the older Hoboken shows,
mhm.
Maxwell shows, but I haven't found that one yet because that was when Sister and Evil were around. Because I used to talk to them all the time, and I think Kim would stare at me. I she thought I was real weird because she's like, "You have 3 bachelor degrees?" And I go, "Yes." And she goes, "But you don't talk like that." I go, "Why should I? I talk like a regular guy." I go, "If I'm talking to somebody who's got 3 bachelor degrees and we're at the office, I'm gonna talk like an office person. But I'm at a show, we just talk like I'm from Newark. That's where I'm from originally.
Right, right. Um, I guess
I'm
it
gonna
was,
see her play Friday. Her
what's
new
that?
band. Her new band is playing here Friday. I
Really?
really like what I heard. Yeah, they sound like Cool Keith. They have a keyboard player. It's a band, so not like her solo. It's not all noise rock. It's real songs, and I really like. And she was on TV a few nights doing the same song, and it was really cool. I played it from a very good. Listen to this. What do you think? He goes, "It's Cool Keith." He goes, "His note for note. I go, I know, but better Cool Keith than a lot of things.
Right. Yeah, I always really dug Sonic Youth. I had Bob Bird on a couple weeks back here on the channel.
Yeah,
Because he's still a Jersey mainstay, and thank goodness for that.
I
Uh,
saw him with John Spencer down here.
hmm.
He saw me. He goes, "What are you doing here?" I go, "I moved here." He goes, "Why?" I go, "New York is no good."
Yeah, I think Bob's gonna stay in Hoboken forever.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
ain't leaving.
no,
But I wanted to mention, I guess it was around 2011 or so, there was a 3-volume collected works of the Thing released on
right,
CD, which is now available on the Thing's Bandcamp page, which of course I'll link in this video. But how did, so many years later, how did the Thing, you know, uh, 3-volume, 2 CD each volume collection come to be? Because that's 6 CDs combined.
right. When I was in Oklahoma City playing with Electric Frankenstein, we were in a record store, and that guy had a label that put out noise rock stuff, and had wanted Reptilian to put it all out because they do a lot of noise stuff,
Right.
but it was too much stuff. I said I want everything that we ever recorded to come out, and so that label said I'll do it, and because he goes, "Aren't you from the Thing?" And I go, "Yeah." Yeah. And then so then we talked, and then I gave him everything, um, got it all converted from that tape, DAT to WAV files, and did it from the very first thing we ever recorded to the very last thing we ever recorded. So, and everybody, we were early, so what's his name? Wharton Tears.
Hmm.
Um, he produced one of the singles, and then uh, what's his name? That he became well known later as a producer, but associated with the Dictators.
Andy?
Um, yeah, no, no, not him. The other guy. He
Daniel
produced
Ray?
that. Yeah, Daniel Ray. We were the first record he did.
Oh,
He had
really?
just opened a studio. Yeah, he had just opened a studio, and he did a few piddly local bands, but we were the first national record that he did. So we did an album with him. Um, and then we did the Contempo one. The Contempo one is after. That was 1989, came out in 1990. So those albums never came out, and I was upset. I thought it was a waste of money and time. So the guy loved it, and I still have copies left. Everybody wants to buy the CDs from me. Um, he sold them to everybody that into that stuff. A lot of people from Europe now are into that time period, and they always ask me for copies to buy. So I don't know why I haven't put it on eBay, but with a name like The Thing, pre-internet, you know, if you don't think about it, like, okay, if Electric Frankenstein was only called Frankenstein, you couldn't find this on the
Yeah,
internet. It'd be buried. So
right.
Electric Frankenstein, and even then, there's another Electric Frankenstein. So, um, yeah, that all came out in 6 CDs. Some of it's live on the radio, and the later version of the band, and when Jesse wasn't a singer anymore, and he got all caught up with his work, and he was busy. So I liked it. It's nice to have it all in one place. Um, it's history, and yeah, I still have a bunch of them, so I like to sell. I got like 30 of each. I've
Hmm.
been selling them for all 6 CDs. They're in 3 double CD cases. I've been selling them for $25.
Mhm.
So I just want people to have them.
Right.
Yeah, the vinyl of the Contempo one you find on the internet for sale a bunch of times, and I'm always surprised that who said they have it. When I was in England touring with the Thing, um, the the guitar player for My Bloody Valentine said he's in a rut and he didn't know what to do for their next album. So my singer Jesse said, "Oh, listen to our album." And he put it on. He goes, "This guy doesn't play guitar like anybody else." Um, and he goes, "Wow, this is different. What do you call it?" "Texture guitar," I said. I'm texturizing the music, and it's flowing in and out. I'm playing lead and rhythm at the same time, which is another Ornette Coleman thing. And then he goes, "Okay, I know what to do now." And then they had their real biggest
Right.
selling out
Loveless.
after.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, be nice if he thanked me at some point, you know.
Put you on tour. Well, and out of curiosity, because to the very best of my knowledge, there's not, there's never been a thing reunion, right? You guys had a hard stop, and that was pretty much it, right?
Yeah. Everybody got real busy. I mean, Jesse lives on the West Coast, and uh the other people, the Doug Principato played guitar later in addition to me, and that's the contempo stuff and after whatever records we put out after. And he has got his own band, and he just retired. He was a music teacher in Staten Island, and then the bass player quit music. He gets real discouraged, and he's like, "Oh, every time I do a band, they break up." Well, every band that ever changed members got bigger after that. You name the band, they got bigger. So things change, but they get better. I mean, so what? But I'm into the Zen thing that it is what it is, and things change for the best if you aim in that direction, right? So they don't. He doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to do a reunion show. Jesse said he would do it. My brother Dan said he would play bass if I did it. And but who's gonna be where am I gonna do it? Only in New York City. And now I'm really, really mad about this. Some band from Spain moved to New York and they called themselves the Thing NYC. And they actually played down here, but I was on tour and I didn't go there to beat them up. And I can't believe that they're so stupid that they can't just do an internet search and see that there's another Thing NYC. We had to call ourselves NYC because in Sweden, this jazz band, which Thurston Moore did shows with them. I hope he didn't think it was us that invited him to Sweden, and then he played and goes, "Oh, it's not them." But they were a jazz band,
Mhm.
and they have like 4 albums out. I don't think they're still around. Um, so, and then the Things from California, which is people from Red Cross, right? And that's probably other ones now that came out of nowhere. So that's the way it is.
Well, there was a point, and we were chatting about this a little earlier before we started recording. There was a point in New York City in that time frame, that late 80s time frame, where, bands were starting to kind of get picked up. The Prongs, the Blitzbeers, the Zombies, the Warrior Souls, Circus of Power was already kind of there. They were signed to, I think, MCA or something. So, a lot of those Raging Slab, so a lot of those bands were kind of moving forward. And it's my understanding that when White Zombie got their deal with Geffen, Rob approached you for some help. I'll let you kind of take the story from there.
Well, we're in Venus Records, and I, saw them there, Sean and um, Rob, and I said, "I'm not doing the Thing anymore." He's like, "Oh man, that sucks." I go, "Nah, I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna dumb it down and have a band called Electric Frankenstein and do like um, punk rock, hardcore, hard rock mixture." Um, and he's like, "Okay." He goes, "Well, if you're not gonna do that anymore, can I have your stage show?" And I go, "Sure." The concept? He goes, "Yeah, yeah." And I go, "Okay." Because they would play with them, and they just played. And um, they changed guitar players, and it was Jesse's friend from New Jersey that became the guitar player on all the famous White Zombie records. And they were going on an RCA development deal for demos, and that's why they were moving to California. Then it got shopped around, and Geffen picked them up, right? Because Geffen already had picked up Sonic Youth.
Right.
So yeah, so the next show I saw them do at CBGB's, they had a primitive version of a stage show. They had smoke and they had um, police barricade around the stage and all these lights. And the guys in Sonic Youth had this thing where you step on it and it would play a sound snippet. We
Yeah.
were doing that. I didn't have a foot pedal doing it, and didn't exist yet. And we had all different sayings happening between our songs, and people like that a lot too. And so that's what White Zombie did. And then the next show became really elaborate, and they just kept going and going, and every show was a lot more elaborate. From I think they just took the money and poured it into the next show, and it just got bigger and bigger, and then they got too big to play CBGBs. And see, it's the details, doing things different from anybody else, that makes everybody get bigger. Shit, when you go see the Swans, you couldn't even stand, right? I mean, it was so packed in like sardines. And so that, that kind of feeling that, man, I could really fill this place up, and it makes the music better when you can fill a place up. Like the energy from everybody's bodies seems to
Right.
come into you. And that's funny with the thing. We would be moving, and people say, "That's really cool how you projected all those monster faces on each other." And I go, "We didn't do that." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And people show me pictures they took. It really looked like there was a monster face. We're like going, "That's what you guys are seeing in the audience." I go, "I don't. That's something really weird happening. That's coming from everybody's energy." And I'm like going, "That's freaking me out." I go, "That's really weird." Because we would call the thing like an entity. It was a giant octopus. And people said, I was riding my bike and this big octopus came out. And it was like, I looked at the date, and it was the only other thing I could find that date was your band was playing. And I was like, okay. And I was like, it's, all that weird stuff is, I was into all that. Um, Research, that book,
Yeah,
magazine.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And I was the editor of Exit magazine during that time. So, and then, so I got to meet Thurwell at that
Right.
time through, he did the covers, and Mark Mothersbaugh, and all these people, they all did artwork for the magazine. And yeah, that's, everybody was interconnected somehow. So,
Absolutely. And in many ways still are
yeah,
interconnected, It's,
yeah,
the one thing I've always told people is if you stay around long enough, you're going to know everybody, because the world really is a small place, particularly in the world that we're talking about,
right.
you know.
Yeah, I interviewed bands for Seconds magazine, that after we're done with Exit, and came FDM, everybody when they were pretty new. So that was good too. And he met a lot of people that way. So
Absolutely. So what led to your decision to transition from what the thing was doing and kind of put that, to an end and launch Electric Frankenstein with Jim Foster?
well, all those Lower East Side bands started disappearing. Um, I don't really know why. When you're in your 20s, people then they get relationships, they get jobs, they get married, they get kids. So all those bands started disappearing. Um, there must be 15 or 20 of them that just disappeared. And then there was just us and Sonic Youth. And that's it. The SDP was gone. Menace Dement was gone. Of Cabbage the Kings was gone. Of a Mesh was gone. Everybody, they were just gone. Black Snakes was gone. Um, so was White Zombie. They moved away, and music was getting more rock. And I was like, there's no more punk rock. I go, yeah, Green Day, Offspring, Rancid. I go, that's not what I would buy when I was a kid. They're good bands. I have nothing against them, but it's not what I would buy. So Coney Island was open at the beginning then, and I was like, I gotta do something different again, as usual. And then which made me do later Maggot SS. So I said I'm gonna mix all those different kinds of rock and make something new, called it Electric Frankenstein. Jim was looking for a band, and I said, "Well, play with us." And so it was me, my brother, Jim, and then people we found in the paper. And then John came in, and then the band, Steve came in. It progressively got better, and the better we got, the bigger it got.
Yeah.
So and right away, people took to Electric Frankenstein. I mean, like immediately, it just was like boom, you know. So it was like the right place at the right time, doing the right thing the right way.
Absolutely. And you guys are still around. There's a new or relatively new lineup down in North Carolina where you and Dan relocated.
Mm.
There's a record that came out in the last couple months called Shipwrecked slash Annie's Grave Revisited. And that's the current lineup with some special guests, including Scott Wilkins, who sang for you guys in the 90s, previously at Verbal Abuse, Jamie from the Chemical People, who's also played in EF. He's on the recording. It's a really cool record. So, tell me about the current state of affairs in Electric Frankenstein, because obviously the band was New York, New Jersey based for decades. You're down there in North
Right.
Carolina. You've got different singer, different most people at this point. So where are things at with EF, and what are you guys looking at
Well,
for the rest of the year?
the people that are new sound like they've always been with us because they were fans and they were people we knew a long time. We known Weeze over 20 years. He did a cover of a single on Victory Records,
Mhm.
and he did posters for shows. So we knew him from the art first. And then he has a comic books that he does, and they're really cool and they're funny. And he's the house manager at the Cat's Cradle, which
Oh,
helps. Helps a lot. And so he is a drummer, and he's perfect. I mean, he when you learn from the records, it's more precise. And so he's got John and Rob, right? So he's got both of those guys plus his own style. And so it's really powerful sounding, really powerful. And he knows we can do like 20 at practice for fun, a whole bunch of old California punk stuff, plus the Misfit stuff, plus, Bolt Road Discharge, all that kind of stuff. And it's fun to be together. The singer, John Flood, calls himself Johnny Cream Ale. He was in a band called Salty Fingers from Raleigh. And I heard that record and I went on Bandcamp and I go, wow, it sounds like he sings for us, right? And sounds musically sounds like fits in with us. So we asked him to join our band, and he was like, "Oh, the first record was How to Make a Monster that I had, and I put it on, and poof, blew me away, cut from the inside for a song." He goes, "It didn't sound like anybody else. It was like rock and punk mixed together." And so I'm like, "Yeah, that's the story." And then so together we sound like monster, more savage, more vicious, more heavy. Music is really heavy down here. People love heavy metal and death metal and stoner rock down here, but we still keep the melodic punk edge to it and the hardcore bite. So and some glam. So we're mixing it, more elements in it. So we have 16 new songs.
oh wow.
Um, yeah, we're gonna let you hear the songs before anybody else. I'm like, let Joel hear them first so he could tell everybody what we sound like now. The Shipwreck record is just for fun because we weren't doing anything and we got asked to play out there. Scott and Jamie wanted to do something together. So the songs were written on the telephone. And so they're like 1 minute each and they're just
Yeah, yeah.
and when we warmed up, we recorded some covers of ourselves, right? And then we said, let's put it out. And then we had Solitary Confinement, the Weirdo song that we do. Um, and so we put that on the record and Annie's Grave because people kept asking us to play that over and over. And so now I don't feel like playing it again. So I took it off of the set list. but everybody's really happy together. I mean, we write songs to impress each other. So I'll go to the studio, go listen to this, and they're like, "Fuck, that's great." And then somebody else will say, "I got this one," and like, "Holy shit!" So we're not writing just to shove songs out there. We're writing to impress each other, which is going to really impress our fans. And I was just listening to all the songs. I'm like, fuck, this album is like wild and crazy. I think people would shit their pants hearing it. So, um, and again, we don't sound like anybody else right now. It's you can hear stronger influence, but it doesn't. None of the songs are the same, and it's really got a strong presence that we might have been missing. I don't know. I think the last album we recorded was Burn Bray. Was that 2008? You know?
Yeah, it was earlier than that, man.
Yeah, COVID really.
2005. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
COVID really fucked up everything. You know, we had to cancel a whole all year of European tours, shows out here, everything else, and then the pressing plants were way far behind. So our Shipwreck record is Johnny is selling that. We put them out. He has a little label, so he put it out. So he's got some copies left if anybody wants to get them. It's on Boxer Records, and they should get them before they're all gone. We only made 300, so it's on colored vinyl. And yeah, then we're looking for a label to put out the new album. I'm gonna do some singles first. We're supposed to do a split with 9 Pound Hammer. I don't know what songs. We're supposed to do something on Think Records. I don't know what songs. And Ghost Highway wants us to do some new stuff with them. So we're going to write 2 albums worth of music and then put 1 album. We're partial to Fat Records if they're out there. Everybody told us you should be on Fat Records. You should be on Fat Records. They had the Nightbirds from New Jersey, and then they all got older and left the label for the same reason. They're going to finish in college, got to get a job, they get married, they got to have kids, blah blah blah. So we can take their place.
Right,
So
right.
and that band told us they were great to us. They really took care of us really well. They got us all these big festival shows like Victory used to do, and they promoted us really well. And we everything really took off. So I think the way we sound now, I think we might really, really take off and be bigger than we ever were, you know? So,
Well, I am looking forward to hearing the new record because from what I've been told, I sort of kind of might be playing on at least some of it. So
oh yeah, there's a song that I wanted to do, one song that got influenced by KMFDM Ministry, but add Discharge and add some other elements to it, right? Because it's always that backbone. And then, so Dan's like, why don't we have Joel play drums while Weeze is playing drums and then just go even further into that? I'm like, sure. Plus I go, the Gories and Dirt Bombs had 2 drums.
mhm.
So I go, it can go from that to garage rock to Ministry. And where we rehearse, Ministry recorded downstairs. Corrosion and Conformity have, well, they're here. They have a recording studio on the first floor of the rehearsal studio. It's in a big building, and there's a club attached to it that just heavy metal. It's coffee and beer in the daytime, and then at night it's heavy metal. I'm like, you can do other stuff besides heavy metal that's still heavy. Maybe they'll let us play. We'll see. I think we're gonna do singles with different groups. We're gonna record stuff in batches. The demos, we're gonna put them out as like demos,
Mhm.
right? So we'll let you hear all the songs soon as I have them all, and then you can tell people. You can say, "Holy shit!" I hope you're gonna say that. But whenever I played it for people who always knew us, they go, "Oh my god, this is like, bam!" It's like, we didn't get weaker, we got stronger. So we adding elements in from other things from our previous bands too. There's some thing elements in there, some do patrol elements. Maggot SS was a band we did with Howie and Roy from Soulfly, and we only wind up. We recorded a bunch of songs in this. We put one song out on a compilation, and the studio had a power outage, and they lost the other four songs. And I'm like, I don't even remember how they go. But Roy wants to record with us and do more at Maggot SS stuff.
Cool.
Howie really wanted to, but he's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't do anything with that. So
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, man, it's wonderful that Electric Frankenstein is still out there doing it. Obviously I have my own history with the band. I've known you guys tons of years, and I really appreciate you connecting with me for this to talk about the thing and the years and the days prior to Electric Frankenstein. I think that's equally as interesting. So I do thank you for coming on. And I'll include a bunch of links for the thing and EF and the Shipwrecked record. So people can check all those things out and get up to speed with what's going on. And you're right. When that record comes out, the next EF, I will be not just literally banging the drum on it, but banging the drum for it. So I guarantee you that, my friend.
that's cool. Yeah. And, things all start out when you're a kid and you're, again, looking for something different. And everybody, other kids are boring and dumb. And yeah, who the hell cares about them? And then one or two kids would be really cool. And then everybody's into records. You know that magazine? That guy went to high school with me. He did FUD, and after that, he did Black to Calm. You know that fanzine?
No, I don't. No.
It's a fanzine, and they said high energy rock way before I did. I was using. I thought I made it up, but I'm noticing some back issues I'm finding on eBay, and uh, and then I'm like, oh, it says high energy rock right on the cover. I'm like, what the hell? And because he was really into the MC5, the Stooges, and anything like that. And it's a great fanzine, and people should look for it. But he went to high school with me. He was in my a couple grades under me, but he moved to Pennsylvania after that. And he always writes about his life in the beginning in the editorial part. So yeah, it's called Black to Calm.
Hmm.
Uh, Everybody who likes all the cool stuff knows, likes that zine. But you start like that, and then you say, I don't only want to hear it, I want to be it. And then I can do it. I can do it. I can write songs like this. I can do it. And then you buy a guitar, you buy amps, you buy many more guitars and many more amps, and you meet more people, and it's a natural process, right? You know, it's a natural process that just unfolds, and you don't think about, oh, I only made $50 today. You don't think about it. You don't, and it just grow. I mean, first EF show, we got $75 playing at the Continental, and we were like, holy shit, we got paid. They go, they never pay anybody, and so, and it just grew and grew, and then we got 800, and then more and more and more, and you know, the more you just go with the flow, the happier you are because you're not putting pressure on yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sal, it is always a great pleasure connecting with you. We've been having conversations like this for nearly 30 years.
Huh.
Uh, always appreciate it. Can't wait for the next one. But in the meantime, again, thanks for coming on, and we'll do this again soon. When the EF record comes out, I'll have to bring you and Dan back on.
Yeah. You might want the other guys too, Wheeze and
Oh yeah.
Johnny. We're Johnny's playing lead guitar and singing, but live we've been doing it with Jamie, right? We just
Right,
played in
right.
Las Vegas. Yeah. We had 500 people, and we played. They had to move it after the first day to announce the show to a bigger place. So I'm hoping,
Mm.
knock on wood, that means everybody's finally looking forward to us. So yeah, and Las Vegas was great and it really went good. But if anybody wants to try out for lead guitar, we got all these famous people wanting to play with us, and we're like, you live too far, you
Yeah.
know, at Nashville and you name it, all these places, all these guitar players. We're like, we need somebody local, you know. So we had some people, but they couldn't keep up with us. So we need the right person and somebody not on drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
not all of us are straight and coffee. I don't drink coffee even, so I'll have a beer once a month. So, but we meet people and they're like, I think you were too worn out from too many years of
yeah.
abuse, and you're not going to keep up. You know, we jump around on stage and we need high energy people. So,
Well,
okay, finally.
I'll see you in the studio at some point.
True. So you did two tours with us. You did Canada and you did Texas, right?
No, no, I only did Canada with you guys, but I
Oh,
did record like 10 years before that. We did that Monster Boots record with LaShock.
oh yeah, that's right. Well, and then you did uh, uh the other band that we did. We didn't even mention it. Kung Fu Killers.
Kung Fu Killers. Yep.
They
That
did
was
like
fun.
one.
We did a lot together with Kung Fu Killers actually. We
Yeah,
drove down to DC. We played with was it Salome with
yeah,
Cat from Agoraphobic Nosebleed. Um
right.
that was a cool gig. I forgot was that the Black Cat? No.
Yeah,
I can't.
Black Hat.
It was
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
we Killers. They're really good. I remember my brother Anthony sang,
Mhm.
and the young brother, and we played a festival in New York. And then when we came out, did you do that festival?
Yeah.
When he came in the back room, everybody stood up and cheered him. I never, even the Electric Frankenstein, never had that happen.
That was a
And
great show.
he was watching a lot of Henry Rollins and Glenn videos, and he kind of blended that. And I was like, we played the Freeze played that day,
Yep.
right? Yeah,
Nihilistics, The Freeze. I think
right,
Brendan from SFA was DJing, if I
right.
remember. Yeah. That was
Yeah,
a good afternoon.
we
Yeah.
want to. We have two songs that we wrote and never came out, so we need to record them. I have them on the, CD, but they're just live in a rehearsal room. Um, so we're gonna have to do that. You might have to play drums on it since
Okay. Well,
we need to do it.
we'll connect in our favorite spot in New Jersey to record. So
Okay.
and you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We'll end up there as
Yeah.
always, and we'll bang it out, man.
Okay. Sounds great.
Excellent. Sal, always good
Thanks.
seeing you, buddy. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks.